I came up with the idea back in mid-2000. The idea was essentially a solution to a problem that I had, where I moved into a condo. I had window shades installed, the ones with the beaded chains. When the summer came around, I wanted to motorize them. And I asked Product to motorize the chain operated control system. That was kind of the eureka moment. With our product line, we have like a remote button. So it's on the wall, you press the button and it opens and closes. I connect mine with Alexa for you to say, hey, 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. open and 8 p.m. close. Patents are expensive. The filing fees are expensive. The drafting fees are expensive. You can only get protection for your patent in the countries you apply for that patent. You're not going to be able to sell in every country. You're not going to be able to patent in every country. You're not Apple. You're not Google. You're not there yet. So if you look at Google, Facebook, if you look at any hardware company, they don't sell in China. Everything's made in China, but they don't sell in China. Amazon is the actual judge and jury. If you have a patent and you see other listing pages, other sellers on Amazon, you can apply to the Apex program. A patent is there to push innovation forward. People are not going to want to innovate if you create the product and then China just copies you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Beyond Product podcast. My name is Moshe Mikanovsky, and I'm your host. In the past, we talked about IoT and the added complexity we have when building both hardware and software products. Today on the show, we'll dive into one of the challenges that come with innovation and with IoT, sometimes more than other products, protecting our IP. I'm excited to have on the show a guest that built a very successful company and IoT products and learn from him how to thread the international waters of copycats and patenting. Please welcome Trung Pham, founder and CEO of Ryse, inventor of smart home devices to automate window blinds and shades. Their first product, now in its second generation in the market, is called Ryse Smart Shade, which motorizes and automates any window shade that is controlled by beaded chain or looped cord. Launching in the coming summer, Ryse Smart Curtain will help homeowners and businesses motorize any curtain that hangs on a track or a rod. Ryse was awarded $4 million Canadian dollars Clinton grants from Sustainable Development Technology Canada. In addition, Trung appeared in Dragon Den, the Canadian Shark Tank TV show, with Ryse, before it was actually rebranded to Ryse when it was still called Axis, where two of the dragons invested in Ryse. Welcome to the podcast, Trung.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really happy to have you here today with us. This is a really interesting product, and the first story really that I wanted to dive into is tell us about yourself, but also how did you come up with the idea of the product?
So I came up with the idea back in mid-2015, I believe, maybe just before then, but the idea was essentially a solution to a problem that I had, where I moved into a condo in downtown Toronto. I had window shades installed, the ones with the beaded chains and the loop one. And when the summer came around, I wanted to motorize them. So I went back to the same dealer and designer where I bought the shades, and I asked them for a product to motorize the chain operated control system. And that's when they said, nope, that type of product doesn't exist. You have to replace your shades that you just bought from us with brand new motorized shades. And to me, that was silly. I mean, it's not complicated to create essentially a motorized pulley system to pull and push the chains. So that was the initial idea, and that's where I came up with the idea for the smart shade. And when I asked them for that type of solution, they said it doesn't exist. So I actually didn't believe them at first. I went home, I Googled it. Sure enough, it didn't exist. And that was kind of the eureka moment.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, it's a real problem that we have as a new homeowner. I also in the past, I grew up without smart devices at all. So to me, the first smart devices, I actually was like, I'm not an early adopter to many technologies. So it took me a while to install smart devices. But I didn't think about motorizing my window shades. And then when I bought my last house, the house came with some motorized window shade. I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. I really love that. But it has a remote control. It's not smart. it's not connected to my phone. So it's still missing that part. And I know that they're quite expensive.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of like the difference between a motorized shade and an automated shade. So they're always changed interchangeably, but typical motorized shades, you have the remote, you press to open and close, which is still extremely convenient. And with our product line, we have like a remote button. So it's on the wall, you press the button and it opens and closes. I connect mine with Alexa. So I'll say, hey, Alexa, open the shades, or hey, Alexa, close the shades. Or you could, set schedules. So that's another thing which requires a mobile app for you to say, hey, 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. open and 8 p.m. close. So I do have those automations set up. It's actually quite ironic, but I use it all the time. And the reason why I use my motorized shades all the time is because I have huge windows, floor to ceiling. And when I come home after the office, especially in the summertime, if the shades are open, it gets really, especially when the sun is just shining in on one of the facades. So I always tell Alexa to lower those window shades on that front, while I still get natural light on the other side of the window. So it's used quite often, more than one would think. And another reason why I use it often is because one of the windows is actually behind a sofa. So before I had it, I actually had to always reach over and pull and push, and it was really annoying. So a lot of these like random use cases that you don't think about until you actually buy it, install it, and use it, and it becomes part of your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So to some people it's a lifestyle, but to some people it's life saving or really like for accessibility if they cannot reach beyond the sofa or something like that. And also I saw some buildings that they build in very hot countries where they design the building to actually open and close automatically based on the sun, so to conserve energy. So this could definitely be something that help building to conserve energy and be more sustainable.
Yes, definitely. So I think there is a huge, as you mentioned, one, an accessibility play, and two, a energy savings play. When it comes to accessibility, we do sell to nonprofit that resell or install for those that are disabled, or even the elderly that may not have the strength to open and close those shades.
Right,
so that's definitely one kind of big audience for us, as well as the energy savings audience, where, just like you said, if it's too hot and sunny, automatically lower the shades, block with that solar heat gain, reduce indoor cooling.
I can definitely see how big buildings, office buildings that are managed by one company or could actually have reduce energies and get maybe higher rating for buildings, so get better energy rating for the building. Right. Okay. Yeah. I see. Okay. And another sustainability or a good thing about it is that you don't have to replace your old blind and throw them away as garbage. You actually reusing it. It's retrofitting what you already have. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this small retrofit. And I think this is also one of the strategies of Ryse, that it's not expensive to buy and also very easy to install, right?
Exactly. So the biggest, I would say, benefit and how we position our company is that we don't, if you're going to buy a fully automated window shade, you may buy it for a new constructed home where there's no window shades installed. But if you already have shades installed, then we would be that great alternative solution, because no one really wants to waste time uninstalling their old shades that might work perfectly well and spend an arm and a leg buying brand new motorized shades that are extremely expensive. So we give a lot of homeowners that option where they bought, beautiful Hunter Douglas window shades or whatnot. They can just buy our device, retrofit, and get them automated.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see, even people that can afford to replace them, I don't see why they need to, if the blinds are good and all you need to do is just motorize it and automate it. So, for sustainability and reducing manufacturing of new blinds, just because I would use that. So these are all great. And let's start diving into the topic of our discussion today, because in the past we did talk with another IoT. It was also in smart buildings. That was Poppy, and they have a product for clean air in buildings. And we talked a bit about, the intricacies of engineering of hardware versus software and all of that stuff. We can talk about it forever. But what really intrigued me with Ryse, and when I met you first time, you talked about the patents that you have to file in, and then some of the battles that you have to go through with copycats from some countries on Amazon. So I think this is a really interesting and great experience that you had, that sharing it with other founders it will be very helpful for them. So let's start maybe from the beginning about patents, and what did you have to patent over there?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background. So we invented this concept of a retrofit shade automation device. And as you can see, that it's essentially a motor that sits on the window frame, and it controls the chains or cords in order to automate the control of the window shade. So when we developed this concept, the idea back in 2015, and we filed for a suite of patents, we knew that there were going to be copycats. So there's various different levels of IP that you should apply for to protect that. And I'll go over kind of each of them. One of the easier patents are design patents, which essentially cover the look and feel of the device. So very simple, very affordable, and oddly enough, the Chinese do respect that, because it's easier to tell if a product is copying a design than copying a utility. So that's one aspect of IP protection, the technical design, which we do have a design patent on our technology. The second thing that is the bread and butter of IP protection is the utility patents. So what you want to do, and what we did was, when we came up with the idea, we quickly filed online a provisional patent. And I believe it cost, I think, $200 to apply it online. And it's super simple. There are a set of sections within the provisional patent that you go write yourself. You could, go on the USPTO website, or even Google Patents website, and look for a few patents that relate to your technology and understand how they write their patents. And you could just essentially copy the sections. And in today's day and age, you could have ChatGPT or an AI software help you draft these patents. But the idea of getting a provisional patent is to get that date, because all the laws in all the world follow a first to file law. So if two people have the same ideas for the invention, and I patent it today and you patent yours tomorrow, I would win. I would by default win that judgment, because I was first to file. So
no matter where you are in the world.
No matter where you are in the world. So
I see.
So if I file for a patent today, but someone else had the idea 5 years ago and they filed in Europe, it's actually my responsibility to see if there was any prior art, and what prior art means, if there's any prior inventions that were filed, to see if I could even file it, or if I have to innovate above and beyond that. So if I file something and there was already an invention 5 years ago with the exact same claim, the exact same aspects of technology, someone else could argue against me and say, well, your patent is doesn't make sense, because there's already an existing prior art that's public. So that's something you have to be careful about. But the idea of getting the filing for the provisional patent gets you that priority date, and then gives you 1 year to file a non-provisional patent, which is an actual patent that you file with the USPTO or the PCT, the patent office, essentially. So that's the process I came, because it's very affordable, $200. You get a year, find the technology, improve it, and then work with a patent agent or a law firm to fully scope out the patents, and write up the claims, because the claims is the most important part of the patents.
So before we get there, where is that provisional patent posted or filed? Is this like a world organization that is behind it, or is it specific to a country?
You go file from my knowledge, it's Canada and the US. So I could either file it on the Canadian CIPO website, CIPO, or the USPTO, which is the US website. So I typically file in the US. So I'll go to the USPTO website, I'll file, you fill out a form, and then you just upload the document. So you upload it as, I believe, a PDF. It doesn't matter
where you post it, as long as you post it with some government as a provisional patent, that will become the date of the first date of filing. I see. And then you said you have a year to do what exactly?
To refine your actual invention or your technology. And then you have to move from a provisional patent to a non-provisional patent. And a non-provisional patent is the idea of an actual patent that is pending. So it's actually in the patent system. And the U.S. Patent Office will then review that patent and either come back to you and say, hey, you have to change some things or approve your patent. And so it becomes public knowledge on their website, on their database.
I see. And between those two steps, can people see your provision filing, or is it a secret?
Yeah, it's a secret.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't really know if someone else also posted it.
No, but you have that priority date, and that's what you want. That's all you want. You want that priority date to give you 1 year to figure out what exactly to include in your actual patent application. And then when you file that patent application, I believe there's a number of months before it becomes public knowledge on the USPTO website. And that's when other individuals and companies can look up your patent.
I see. Okay. Now, what about other countries? So you file it in the States. For whatever reason, I believe that Ryse is incorporated in the US, right?
No, we have a Canadian corporation, so we are Canadian. But the US is the biggest market in the world, so you want to...
So that's why you decided to do it over there. I see. Okay.
Yeah, so you want to... Patents are expensive. So the filing fees are expensive. The drafting fees are expensive, and it gets super expensive if you want to file in global jurisdictions. You can only get protection for your patent in the countries you apply for that patent. And once you start dabbling into Europe and other countries, there's going to be additional fees for language conversions, all of that. So you have to consider that. For us, you really want to figure out which countries you want to sell in and file in those countries. You're not going to be able to sell in every country. You're not going to be able to patent in every country. You're not Apple. You're not Google. You're not there yet. So really just pick and choose.
Amazon, right?
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, like look at the top countries that you plan on selling in, where your technology is compatible and makes sense. For us, Canada and the US, obviously, and Europe is another big market. So those are generally the countries and the jurisdictions that we apply for. I was going to add, so kind of answer your questions when you think globally. There are some interesting developments that are happening. In Europe, they just launched a UP, a unitary patent, and that covers certain countries in Europe. So you apply for the one patent, and it covers various countries within Europe itself. It's one file, it's one fee. Previously, what you would have to do is file with the EPO, the European Patent Office, and that gives you protections in specific countries in Europe. But then you would have to pay filing fees for each country that you wanted protection, and that was super expensive. With the new UP, it's just one filing and one cost.
I see. Okay, is it covering all the European Union countries, or is it still not the same coverage?
Not the same coverage yet. There's specific countries that are part of this membership. So you'd have to Google it. It's called the UP Unitary Patent, and they'll list up all the countries that are currently involved as members and other countries that are pending membership. But the idea is that it makes it a lot more affordable to file and protect yourself in Europe.
I see. Okay. Yeah, and with a product like Ryse's product, I would assume that it does really have to follow your strategy where there are blinds that are being sold that are fitting this technology in these countries. Coming from Israel, I remember over there, most of the blinds actually are not this type of blinds that you have in North America. They are more like shades, and they have this lever that you have to push up and down. Very mechanical, so they're not so much like a string or a rod or something like that. They still have stuff like that, but the main one, and this is because it's much more heavy duty for sun protection. And I've seen it also in some other countries. So I guess that you follow that. Where is the big market for your type product, right?
Correct. So that's why I don't think it applies to every market. In Europe, I think interesting markets would be France, the UK, perhaps Germany. I've seen other markets where it didn't make sense. Italy has a kind of like a conveyor belt kind of system that I've seen. Israel, like you mentioned, so it doesn't fit every country, but there are definitely specific jurisdictions within Europe that it does fit.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so you have your patents, and I guess after some time they are available. Other people can see them, so they can see all the details of the patent, including schematics and how you do exactly what you do. So potentially they can go and copy this, but the patent is protecting you. But it's really protecting you only in the countries that you filed it. So let's say you didn't file it in China, and Chinese manufacturers want to create it and use it. They basically can do it and sell it in China. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that is something that every tech company realizes. And it's China, I say, is a love and hate relationship. It's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they're great at, making product.
It's a huge market.
It's a huge market. They're masters of production and manufacturing. They could look at a product, they could break down and they rebuild it and they could copy. That's another caveat. So they're good at making your product, but they're also, another factory will be good at ripping it off. And with China, just like every other tech company, they're not there to prevent copycats from selling in China because they're not selling in China. So if you look at Google, if you look at Facebook, if you look at any hardware company, they don't sell in China. Everything's made in China, but they don't sell in China because they know there's a Chinese copycat or Chinese alternative, and they're going to sell in that region. They want to be able to sell and protect themselves in the regions that they want to sell in Europe, in North America. That's what they want to do. They, if they're creating a product in China, they understand that there is a risk that somebody's going to copy them, and that's a risk they're willing to take because they know that they're not going to be spending their effort. Their strategy is not to penetrate the Chinese market because there's going to be a competitor that does that. So we follow the same concept. I'm sure there's hundreds of knockoffs in China, but they can't sell in North America.
I see. Okay. So next we're going into a global market with selling on Amazon. And I want you to share with us about your Amazon experience because that's really, really interesting there. I didn't even know Amazon is doing that, but I will let you tell, how Amazon deal with IP infringement. And I think that when you told this story, when the first time I heard you tell the story, you were saying about Chinese manufacturers or copycats that were trying to sell on Amazon. So that's why I was asking specifically about that. But they were trying to sell on Amazon to people in your market, right? To people in North America.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Amazon is being a lot more cautious on the products that they do sell, and really providing tools and products to protect sellers and IP owners. For example, they really respect brands, and they don't sell any counterfeits, for example. So, you go look, there's going to be a lot of Chinese counterfeits of Nike products and Adidas, and, expensive shoes that are very exclusive to get. But Amazon doesn't sell that. So they do protect those type of brands. At the same time, Amazon launched something which is now known as the Apex program. Previously, I believe it was called the patent infringement program, utility infringement program. But the general idea is that with the Apex program, which is what it's called now, Amazon is the actual judge and jury, in a sense. So how it works is that if you have a patent and you see other listing pages, other sellers on Amazon selling a knockoff of your product, you can apply to the Apex program. You can tell Amazon, hey, there is a handful of sellers infringing on my patent. Amazon will then request you to make a $4,000 deposit to Amazon, and they will contact each and every other seller and say, hey, Ryse is claiming that you are infringing on their patents. Would you like to argue against that? If so, also deposit $4,000, but also show proof that you have patents as well. And all the parties involved will submit a case to Amazon and say, these are our patents and these are what they're infringing. And the other sellers will have to do the same. Now, if the other sellers don't have a patent, then you could win by default because you have the patent, right? So the idea here is that Amazon reviews the case, and and makes a judgment. So it prevents you the need to go to a court and spend 6 years in court, 7 years in court fighting an IP lawsuit and not knowing who's going to win or not. This is very affordable. You deposit $4,000. All the other sellers deposit $4,000, and in fact, the winner gets that money back. So we deposit $4,000.
They put
Yes.
You don't get the money also from the other one. That's Amazon keeps.
Yeah, Amazon keeps that. So we get the money back, and then and what happens is that we get a court judgment docket number or case number. So anytime there is a knockoff that comes up on Amazon, we just log into the brand registry. We file for an IP infringement. We copy and paste the court docket number or the case number, and Amazon will remove the listing within a week.
Amazing. This is really interesting that Amazon got into this. I guess there is quite a lot of benefits for them as well, because they, like you said, they are really, they want the brand names to be successful over there, so they help them in that. It makes the amount of time for people to actually go through this much shorter. I believe that a patent actually has a time limit, and if I'm not mistaken, it's 7 years.
No, it's actually 20 years. Sorry.
Oh, 20
it's actually
years.
20 years. Yeah.
Why did I think 7? I don't know. Oh, maybe there was something else I was reading. So you also mentioned it might take 6 to 7 years to go through the courts, and I was thinking maybe by that time the patent is going to be open already, and they can. It doesn't really matter at that time, right?
It's quite interesting. So I'll give you my thoughts. I think with Amazon, they're trying to police their platform a lot more stringent. And Amazon themselves, they've got hit with a few lawsuits where customers have said, "Hey, we bought it from Amazon, so Amazon, you're liable for it." A good case would be I don't know if you remember the hoverboards, where you stand on and you roll forward and you roll back. So those were selling like hotcakes on Amazon when they first launched.
Before they blew up or something.
Exactly. And because they blew up, Amazon stopped selling them because Amazon could be potentially liable. So in the case of IP infringement, a case could be made potentially that, hey, Amazon, you're selling an infringing product, be liable. So the idea of a patent is that it protects the distribution of your invention. So you're not going to be able to stop anybody from creating and manufacturing it, because there's so many. Anybody could do it in a garage. In theory, anybody could recreate it with an Arduino board and a bunch of electronics and solder and make a similar device. You're not going to protect that. You don't want that. What you want is to protect the economic value that the patent brings, in the sense that you don't want a copycat to be able to sell it and generate revenue from your invention, right? So that's the idea of patent protection. You're protecting the distribution, and distribution is defensibility. If you own access to the consumer, if you own that distribution channel and you're the only product selling there, that's the only products consumers could buy, and that's what gives you defensibility. And that's why when you learn about patents and the IP around pharmaceuticals, for example, that's why they charge an arm and a leg for some of these medication products and whatnot. But having it, like, I've spoken to a lot of engineers and a lot of business people, and some people don't like it, but you have to understand a patent is there to push innovation forward. People are not going to want to innovate if create the product and then China just copies you. Like, what's the point? What's the point of innovating there? Like, you don't have the money to protect themselves. So, so I definitely feel like IP, especially a patent, is definitely something that all startups, especially in hardware, should look into. Make sure you have some kind of defensible position there. I would say the last thing that's very interesting is that there was a case that was just passed, a judgment, couple of weeks ago, where a large, I'm not going to mention the names, but a large window blind company infringed on another company. And initially, when I was reading the article, the smaller company was only asking for $5 million in damages, and the larger company didn't want to settle. It went to court. The jury found the larger company liable and knowingly and willingly infringed on the patent. And they passed judgment for, I believe, $30 million.
Wow.
So it was a simple idea. It's even more simple than my product, to be honest. But that is the extent of damages that you could be awarded, and for infringing on IP. So definitely get those patents, because the judgment for any infringer could be quite substantial, and you definitely want to protect yourselves from it.
Yeah. Why do companies even do that? I mean, I understand people that maybe they're living in places where businesses are done in different ways. Maybe they have a different moral system, or whatever it is. But I don't know where this company you mentioned are from, but companies, if they are in the right place, they think that they can get away with that.
Yeah, I think I really think it's ego. It's the idea that they think they could just get away with it. To be honest, they think that they see a great idea, they copy it, they're making money off it, and they're not willing to pay a couple bucks because they just don't want to. But at the end of the day, they could shoot themselves in the foot if they don't.
Absolutely. Now, what happens with the other types of organizations that are not Amazon, like AliExpress? This is also coming from China. And can you even deal with organizations like that if they are selling on their platform copycats?
If the platform is not receptive, then it'll be more challenging. Amazon has been a lot more proactive with the Apex program, which makes it an attractive place for brands and sellers. We want to be able to protect the channels where we sell in. So we want to be the only products in retail shelves, on Amazon, on Best Buy, on the channels we sell in. And that's what matters to us. AliExpress is such a small, you might get a few users that buy a couple of units per month, but it's so small. And this is when it comes back to the whole business decision. Like, are you going to spend your effort and your energy on policing AliExpress when it's such a small channel for you? No, you're not going to do that. So we focus on the larger channels because everyone either buys from your website, on Amazon, Best Buy, or any of these larger retailers. And those are the channels you want to be able to control.
Yeah. So maybe one of the lessons here is that it's not about full control, but it's about mitigating some of it, mitigating some of the risks that you have, and mainly in the specific locations where you are selling your product.
Yeah.
So there is probably no way to control everyone in the entire world. So it's about mitigation of the issues that you might have.
Correct.
Perfect. Another really interesting thing that I've seen Ryse doing, and this is a bit unrelated to patenting, but I was really intrigued by that. So maybe we can just have a quick question about this one. I know that you've done a lot of fundraising with different series. We mentioned that you were also on Dragon's Den, and you got some investment over there. But recently you went to the route of crowdfunding, which is really interesting for companies. I know you talk a lot about it in the other podcast, but maybe you can share with our audience a bit about what does that even mean to do funding for a startup and as crowdsourcing, and why did you go that route?
Yeah, so I think first I do want to clarify that with Dragon's Den we had two offers, and and two dragons committed on the show, but we signed with one. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to fundraising, and especially for startups, I think a lot of startups fall under the false pretense and the false notion that they have to raise from VCs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very risky assumption. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of other funding methods out there. Mm-hmm. And if I was to, recommend a few, I would, and if I had the ability to do it all over, I would definitely incorporate as a Delaware C Corp in the US. Okay. Because just by being a US corporation, it opens the doors to a lot of other funding structures, non-dilutive funding, as well as some investors that only invest in US corporations. So that's first and foremost. Now, there are a lot of funding vehicles that I've looked into. I've talked to VCs, angels. I've done my pitches there. There's a lot of non-dilutive inventory-based financing that you can look into as well. Mm-hmm. And these are great options. When you're talking about the crowd, or what I like to call community rounds, that's when you're able to raise from any retail investor globally. And what makes it interesting is that it's just like e-commerce. So the way you market and market your product and sell online, driving customers to your own Shopify store or Amazon store to make the purchase, it's the same concept. You market the company and the investment opportunity online, what they call general solicitation. Going through these regulations allow you to generally solicit, market online, drive these investors to your landing page. Your pitch, instead of pitching the product, you're pitching the company. And just like Shopify, the investor could go through the investment application process directly online and invest directly online. They could fund through credit cards, they could wire, they could ACH or direct deposits directly on the application, just like an e-commerce purchase. So I can't remember the exact percentages, but a huge percentage of our investors just go through the application, use their credit card, and they get equity in the company.
Amazing. So this is probably a lower investments that they would do than if a VC will give you $100,000.
VCs typically will give you more than that. VCs are like, you're talking about $1 million, a couple of $1 million rounds. But I would say don't jump to conclusions there, because with this raise, you're not just targeting retail investors that invest $1,000, $2,000. We've had investors that have seen our page invest $250,000 after one meeting. So you have to understand the beauty of this funding strategy and this regulation is that you're able to market your company online. Previously, you could not do that. Previously, you could only market behind closed doors to A-credited investors, and you have to verify that they are A-credited or wealthy. Now, you could do anything online, drive them to your page, and the idea is that just like e-commerce, you're getting leads, you're reaching out to them, you're telling them your story, you're pitching them, answer any questions they might have, and then if they like your company, they'll invest.
That's what I might call democratization of the market.
Yes.
So you don't have to go through...
Word. Yeah, I love that word. Democratization of fundraising. I love that, of capital raising. So I think that is something that is on the uptrend, and you're going to see that as a huge funding option, because a lot of companies are utilizing it. A lot of great companies are raising good capital with it, and especially when you're talking about companies like ours, we're hardware. VCs hate hardware. They love AI. They love SaaS. They love software. They love blockchain type of companies or whatnot. The metaverse maybe, but they don't like hardware at all. So hardware consumer products, I think using the cloud, using your customers as potential investors, attracting them is definitely a great strategy and a great opportunity for these startups to raise capital.
Yeah. And it's a great option to open the eyes of other founders to show them what's more available, like you said in the beginning. So that's great as well. From your founder journey, what will be like the number one tip that you will give to new founders? We are asking all the founders on the show, so I would love to learn from you. What will be that number one tip?
Too
many of them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. I think I'll give you a handful that I think is very useful for them.
Go for it. I might ask you to prioritize it at the end. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. I think number one, first and foremost, and this is my perspective as a hardware founder, your first product should be the bare bones MVP, minimum viable product. And the reason why I say that is when we developed our first gen product, it had all the bells and whistles. You don't need that. You just need the core features in order to develop a solution that serves problem. That's what you need. So whatever product you have, really evaluate all the bells and whistles, all the features in it, and remove what you can for a first gen. You could always add on later, but just remove what you can for the first gen, because by adding all these bells and whistles, it delayed production, it increased cost, it added more complexity, more testing was required, more problems could come about. And from our Gen 1 to Gen 2, we reduced a lot of features, and we were able to reduce the cost of goods down from north of 80 to under 40. So you could see there a 50% reduction in cost, and the quality was better. It was faster, it was stronger, it was quieter, it was more robust. Our return rates dropped from 20% to last month under 4%. So you could tell just by the return rates, quality significantly better.
And people are happier with it, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that's the first kind of definitely recommendation. Just really stick to a very simple MVP The second one is you really need a lot of grit as a founder. At the end of the day, you're the decision maker. You have to be able to roll the punches. I always use that line because you're always going to get hit. You got to figure it out. You got to pick yourself back up, and you got to look for a solution. And that was one of the kind of gut punches that I took before I moved into the direction of the community round and learning that I was able and legally able to raise from my community, my customers, market online, because previously you couldn't do that. And because I got hit in the gut by a VC who pulled a term sheet on me, I discovered this amazing avenue of fundraising. And I think that's another thing that you have to learn as a founder, that you have to be able to learn roll with the punches, and you have to have a lot of grit. So I would say, one's a very technical kind of piece of advice, and one's another personality piece of advice.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. We will share, all of your, I think it's hello. Is it hello Ryse?
Yeah. So all our social media channels are Hello Ryse. So Ryse,
Ryse in all the different platforms wherever you are.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It's all Hello Ryse. Ryse is spelled RYSE.
Amazing. Yeah. If there was one thing that you would want to ask our audience, what would it be?
If anybody has, I would say, a network or contacts with potential customers like hotels, senior living facilities, would love to meet them. We're heavily invested into the B2B channel this year, and some great piece of news that we'll be announcing over the next couple of months is our launch into additional retailers. So we'll be making some press releases over the next few weeks, and you'll hear that there's going to be new retail partners that we're going to be launching in.
That's great. Which retailers can people, other than Amazon, which we talk about a lot, what other retailers can people find your products?
Best Buy. So bestbuy.com and Best Buy stores in Canada. So all across Canada, just walk into one and you can pick up our product. And we are onboarding with Lowe's at the moment. So Lowe's in the US. And there's other furniture retailers that we're going to be launching with. Linen Chest in Canada, we just launched with this week, actually. And so you'll be hearing announcements, a press release coming out very soon.
Very nice. Excellent. Thank you so much, Trung, for coming to the show. This was really eye-opening. And I always, whenever we're talking about IP, I always learn something new because my background is all in software. And in software, especially the traditional software, there is not a lot of, new things that you develop that really merit to go and create patents. So it's always really eye-opening when I talk with people that have gone through that. Especially, I talked in the past with many IP professionals that helping companies, but to learn from someone that actually have done it and gone through the ropes, it's really something else. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So thank you everyone for watching or listening to the Beyond Product podcast. We hope to see you again. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.